It's been a long day and life's getting you down. Just sit with a puzzle and turn it around. Piece by piece, piece by piece puzzler.
Hi Puzzle Fam, this is Richard, aka Piece by Piece Puzzler, and I am back with one of the two exciting new projects that I talked about on my last Week in Pieces video, which was episode 4. So some of you may remember that back in March of 2022, I worked on what I called the 12-hour Marvel Puzzle Challenge. So in that challenge, I was able to put together about 5 puzzles in a little over 12 hours. I think it ended up being about 13 and a half hours. Spread out across one day and the next morning. So I looked back recently on that past video, and I mentioned at the end of it that I didn't actually think I would ever want to do this again. And in fact, it was a bit of a tiring experience the last time, so that's why it's been almost a year since I did that challenge before I'm returning. But in all of that time, I have continued to amass more Marvel puzzles from Buffalo Games. And so how do you clear out Marvel puzzles? You do another 12-hour puzzle challenge. So I've decided to pull out these 6 puzzles from my collection, which I am hoping to finish today. And I thought I would start by showing you the 6 puzzles and then dive into the puzzle challenge. So the first one is this puzzle of Thanos. The second one is this collage of different classic Marvel artwork. Here is one that is a poster of the different Avengers in kind of a pop art style. We've got a variant cover for an issue of Black Panther. We've got a sort of doodle collage of Ms. Marvel. And last but not least, we've got this Spider-Man cover as well. So you may remember from the last video that it took me between about 2 and 3 hours per puzzle. I've picked out 6. I don't know how many of these I'm going to get done, but I'm trying to challenge myself to beat my time from last time. I think that in the last year, or a little under a year since I made that video, that I've actually improved my time on 500-piece puzzles. So I think that I could probably finish one of these in under 2 hours. So I thought it might also be a fun exercise for me to predict which one I thought was going to be the most difficult puzzle and which one I thought was going to be the quickest and easiest puzzle. So I think that the most difficult puzzle is going to be this one. And the reason is because there's so much repeating yellow and blue within the puzzle. And I think that the easiest one is probably going to be this Spider-Man puzzle. And the reason is because it's really blocked up into different sections. The people down here, the building, Spider-Man, and the sky. I'm also, at this point, pretty much an expert in Spider-Man puzzles. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is probably the 5th or 6th one that I've done in this 500-piece category. So I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to time the puzzles this time a little bit better than I did the last time. Last time I sort of just estimated how long it took me for each puzzle, but this time I'd like to know exactly how long it took me. I will emphasize, though, that I'm not necessarily trying to speed puzzle these. I am going to try to enjoy them and to do them, within this time limit, but I'm not going to stress out over how long it's taking me. And if I don't finish them all within 12 hours, I am, allowing myself the possibility that I either extend the time or that I reconvene on a different day and finish this exercise up. The main goal of this is actually just to do these 6 puzzles and to clear them out of my collection because they've been sitting here for close to a year since the last video was made, and it's now time for them to move on to other homes to be enjoyed by other puzzlers. So also in the spirit of the 12-hour Marvel Puzzle Challenge and continuing the tradition, I've tried to duplicate as many of the aspects of the last time as I could. So this morning I woke up and I had half of a bagel. I also grabbed myself a coffee, actually from the same place as last time, the Brooklyn Bagel that is near my apartment. I've also bought myself some jelly beans that I'll be pulling out a little bit later in the day. And I'm also wearing one of the same shirts that I wore in the last video. I figured that this would give me a little bit of extra luck and that maybe this would help me in my challenge. I'm feeling really good about this today, and actually, in spite of all my negativity in the last video, it's something I've been looking forward to for a couple of weeks now. I pushed the date that I was going to be doing this a couple of times, but I've cleared my calendar for today. I've got my schedule open. I don't have anything else to do, no other obligations, and I'm just going to be working on this. Probably I'll have either a movie or a podcast or an audiobook going in the background, but this is going to be my main focus for today. And also, like the last Marvel puzzle challenge, I'm going to keep the timer going if I take any quick breaks, like if I want to get some water or a snack or use the restroom. But if I take a meal break or a slightly longer break, I will stop the timer and then I will continue going once I sit back down into this chair. So even though this is a 12-hour Marvel puzzle challenge and I'm starting around 10:30 a.m., I probably won't be finishing at 10:30 p.m. because I am going to have probably at least an hour to 90 minutes or 2 hours of a break in the middle. But that's because I am going to need to have some food at some point along the way. And I don't necessarily want that to count towards my time, obviously, because I won't be puzzling while I'm eating. So it's only reasonable that I stop the timer and that I just pick up once I'm back here in my chair. So one other thing to mention is I'm wearing glasses today, which I'm normally not doing in my videos. The reason I pretty much always wear contacts is because the ring light will reflect back on my glasses. So fortunately, I'm recording this in natural light because it's still the morning time. But as I check in with you, I'm planning on doing that kind of blog style, just on my phone, on the go, just kind of recording my thoughts along the way, not necessarily in the tripod. So forgive me if later on there is any reflection in my glasses. Unfortunately, this is just what I have to work with today because I'm dealing with this swollen eye. But, you know, it's not really impeding anything else. So I saw no reason to postpone this any longer, and I thought I'd just carry on because this is just a nice distraction. So now let's get into the first puzzle, and I was actually thinking, I think I'm going to start with the most difficult puzzle, which is the Thanos puzzle, just to get it out of the way, because even though I think this is really cool artwork, I've been thinking this looks like a tricky puzzle since I bought it, and I would actually just like to get it done so that I can move on to the other ones, which I think are going to be a lot more fun. And one other thing I thought I'd mention is that in the last video, if you watch it back, there was one puzzle which was a Thor puzzle with art by Greg Hildebrandt. It ended up being quite difficult because the texture of the image was almost like a color pencil texture or a pastel texture. And I'm looking at the puzzles that I have today, and all of them seem to have really sharp, crisp images. So I'm hoping that that will mean I have fewer stumbling blocks. If you remember, that Thor puzzle, I think took me about 3 or 3.5 hours, and that ended up being the longest puzzle of the whole challenge. So I'm really hoping that I'll avoid that this time, and that these will all come together a little bit quicker. Like I said, I think Thanos is going to take a tiny bit extra time, but hopefully I can get it done within about 2.5 hours. That's my hope. Okay, so let's get into it with Thanos. So here I am with the puzzle in progress. I broke my rule and I took a little break a little after 2 hours into my puzzling session. I needed to stretch my legs, and I also suspected that my phone needed a little bit of a recharge. So I realized that I probably will have to stop periodically just to plug my phone in and let it get a little bit of extra juice. But this puzzle is about as hard as I expected. I have a lot of yellow pieces left, a few blue pieces left, and I think that even though I'm at around 2 hours and 5 minutes, it's probably going to take me at least 45 minutes more to finish this one up. And I think I'm going to have to do a little bit more sorting so that I can get a little bit more order going in terms of these pieces. So as you can hopefully see, I finished Thanos, and this actually took me close to 3.5 hours. The official time was a little over 3, but I forgot to turn the timer back on for about the first 20 minutes after I started back into work on this puzzle. So it was a little bit inaccurate, but I will be a little bit more careful about the timer for the next puzzles. So this was the Thanos box, and I'm going to start working on this one, which is a collage of classic Marvel imagery. I think this one's going to be a lot easier. I think that probably I can sort out the edges and then do the middle section just basically from the box. So here we go. I finished my second puzzle. This one was a little over 2 hours, so I was pretty happy with that time. And this one was a lot of fun. There were all of these borders between the different comic book panels, and those were a lot of fun to do, and they made it a little bit easier. So this one was really fun. Definitely more in line with what I was hoping for this day. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the next puzzle, which is this Avengers puzzle that has this kind of bold graphic artwork. So here I am, I just finished the third puzzle. This was the Avengers puzzle. It was fun. This one was pretty straightforward. I just sorted by the different colors and put it together pretty easy. The only thing that I was a little disappointed with is that there's one corner piece missing on the puzzle. So that's a real bummer, and hopefully the next puzzle will be complete. I think I'm going to do either the Black Panther puzzle or the Ms. Marvel puzzle next. But I'm just going to make a snap decision and then get into it. So I'm a little past the 8-hour mark in my 12-hour challenge, which means I have 4 hours left and I have about a quarter of this Black Panther puzzle finished. However, I have to say I am much more exhausted than I thought I would be at the end of this 8 hours. So instead of just powering through and finishing tonight, I think I'm going to actually resume tomorrow and just pick up and do the last 4 hours then. So I'm back in the puzzle studio. It's the next day, and so far I finished approximately 8 hours of the Marvel Puzzle Challenge. I do feel like it's a bit of a cop-out for me to interrupt the 12-hour puzzle challenge and continue it on the next day. However, as I mentioned to you in the last video, my goal is really just to clear out a lot of these puzzles from my collection, and I am still accomplishing that goal. Plus, I'm still going to be able to say that over the weekend I was able to do 12 hours of Marvel puzzles. So one other thing I wanted to mention, as I've gotten through this challenge, I've now finished 3 puzzles and I'm in the middle of, or I have about a quarter of the way done this Black Panther puzzle. I'm sort of revising my goal. I was planning to try to finish all 6 Marvel puzzles that I had accumulated in the 500 piece category, but I'm now thinking that after Black Panther, I'm going to do this Spider-Man puzzle, and then I might call it a day after that because it turns out that I'm really beat. This has been kind of an exhausting challenge, and I'm still going to be happy to have done 5 of the 6 puzzles. So either I'll decide to save the other one in my collection for if I do one of these challenges again, or if I just decide to pass it along to somebody else who might enjoy it in a quicker fashion than I would, I'll have to make that judgment call. So probably this Ms. Marvel puzzle, as much as I like Ms. Marvel, is going to be the one that does not get finished. So without further ado, since I have 4 hours left, I'm basically just going to time-lapse the rest of my puzzling experience, and then after I finish, I will check back with you and give some final thoughts and some updates. So unfortunately, my phone, which I was using for the time-lapse, cut out during the process of doing the Spider-Man puzzle. So unfortunately, I'm not going to have time-lapse footage of this one, but I'm just going to carry on doing this one off camera, but I will show it in the final summary when I check in with you tomorrow. So here I am back again to tell you a little bit about the summary of my 12-hour Marvel puzzle challenge. So I have to admit to you, it's actually been a few days since I completed the challenge. After I was finished, I was pretty exhausted from having done 5 full 500-piece puzzles in a 12-hour span. So I needed to take a couple days off actually from puzzling altogether, and then I kind of got back into the groove, and here I am back talking to you. So all said and done, I finished 5 total puzzles in a total of about 12 hours and 15 or 20 minutes. So the puzzles that I completed were this Thanos puzzle, which has artwork by Mark Bagley, Danny Meeke, and Paul Mounts. And I finished that one in 3 hours and 5 minutes. So that was by far the longest puzzle in terms of the time it took me to complete it. And then I finished the next one was called Marvel Comics Presents, and that one is not behind me because unfortunately it fell apart when I was trying to set it up behind me, which is becoming a common theme with these Marvel puzzle challenges. That one had various artists. I wasn't able to pin down exactly the artists that were on the puzzle because it was a collage of different classic Marvel imagery, but I'm guessing that probably Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby at the very least are among the artists that are included, because as I was looking at classic Marvel artwork, there were a lot of very similar images that came up from those 2 artists, and those are, of course, 2 of the most famous classic Marvel artists from their slate of artists. The next puzzle that I completed was this one, which is called Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This one, I don't know who the artist is. I suspect that probably a graphic designer put this one together for Marvel, because when I tried to reverse image search, the only thing that I came up with was this puzzle. So I think that this was probably created specifically for a Buffalo Games puzzle. And this one took me 2 hours and 20 minutes. This one was fun. However, I will say that this one was unfortunately missing a corner piece right here. So I went on Buffalo Games' website and they have a form to fill out for replacement puzzles. Unfortunately, they don't give you the option to receive another copy of the same puzzle, which I think would be nice if Buffalo Games is watching and they take this gentle feedback. I think it would be a good option to request to receive the same puzzle back. Personally, for me, I'm happy to have a different puzzle as the replacement because I wasn't planning to frame this or display it or anything like that. But if somebody had specifically purchased this puzzle with the intent to display it or frame it or regift it to somebody with this particular theme, I think that I would feel disappointed if I wasn't able to receive another copy of the same puzzle as a replacement. So for this one, I'm more than happy with the replacement that I'm getting, which is a different puzzle altogether. But just as a general comment, I think that would be something that would be nice for Buffalo Games to change in the future. So I'm going to very briefly do a scene change so I can switch out the puzzles behind me, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about those two. So these were the last two puzzles that I completed for my Marvel Puzzle Challenge. This one is called Black Panther number 19 because it corresponds with the cover of one of the comic books. And this was a variant cover that was done by the artist Dustin Weaver. And this one took me about 2 hours and 16 minutes to complete. And this one is called The Amazing Spider-Man number 24, which is also a variant cover. And this one was with art by Mark Brooks. And this one took me approximately 2 hours and 15 minutes. However, my timing at the end of the challenge ended up getting a little bit botched, so I wasn't able to get the exact time for this particular puzzle. However, it was about comparable, I would say, to my time on Black Panther number 19. So I will say, actually, these two puzzles were my favorite ones that I did during this challenge because they were slightly busier images. They had a lot of variety of color. One of them had text in it, which I love, this Black Panther puzzle. I really enjoyed just doing the title. So I really had fun with both of these puzzles, and I would highly recommend them, along with the other three that I did. However, I will say that these, like I said, were my favorites. So in summation, I think in the intro, it's been a while since I recorded it, that I mentioned that after I did the first 12-hour Marvel Puzzle Challenge, I basically said I didn't ever want to do it again. However, in the intervening months, I accumulated so many additional Marvel Buffalo Games puzzles that I kind of felt like I needed to do another one just to clear them out of my collection. However, once I got going on the first day of this 12-hour Marvel Puzzle Challenge, I ended up feeling quite exhausted after having finished the first three puzzles or so. So, I made sure this time to take a few more breaks to make sure that I was hydrating, to make sure I was having a snack, to have dinner, and that ended up bringing the overall time period of the puzzle challenge to a breaking point. By the time I hit like 10 p.m. on the first day that I was working on this, I just decided that for my own health and sanity, I needed to pack in the towel for that day and just continue it on the next day with a fresh eye. So that's exactly what I did. I went back to it on the Sunday of last week, and I finished up these two puzzles behind me, and I actually enjoyed these two a lot more because I came to them with a slightly fresher perspective after having a bit of a rest. So the moral of this story is, just like the last time, I don't really intend for this video to be my encouraging you to do the same thing. Certainly if you're somebody who would actually really enjoy spending 12 hours in a row puzzling, then go for it. I think that's a great thing. However, for myself, I think I've learned, hopefully, my lesson from this second Marvel Puzzle Challenge that I don't need to do this again. And actually, I think even though I really still enjoy these Marvel Buffalo Games puzzles, I don't necessarily feel the need to be accumulating many, many more of these. So I definitely recommend checking them out. They're really high quality. I haven't had any issues with these with the exception of the one missing piece for the Avengers puzzle that I showed you a few moments ago. But they're really fun puzzles, and they're at a really great price point. Most of these I picked up for between about $8 and $12, which is really inexpensive for a very high quality puzzle. They do have a little bit of glare on the pieces for pretty much all of these puzzles, so it's a little bit hard to photograph them unless you have natural light, but it doesn't make it too difficult to work on them at all hours. If you have a good light above you, the glare didn't really bother me at all while I was doing the puzzling. You probably will notice that, though, in some of my time lapses, that there was a bit of glare towards the middle of the puzzle, and it's a bit unavoidable. I tried moving the light around a little bit to see if I could make it work, but without making the whole image darker, it was pretty much impossible not to have at least a little bit of glare on the puzzles. So, all said and done, I did have a fairly fun time doing this. Some of the puzzles were more enjoyable than others. I really actually regret starting with the Thanos puzzle because even though I think the final puzzle is really beautiful, the colors are great, it's very vibrant, it would actually look good hung up if you were somebody who enjoys the character Thanos, though I'm not sure exactly why you would because he's kind of the villain. But I do think it's a beautiful puzzle, but it definitely took me the longest amount of time. And while I thought to myself that starting with that would kind of get it out of the way so I could enjoy the others, it ended up really just taking the wind out of me. So I almost wish I had just excluded that one from this puzzle challenge, because it really did me in, made me feel exhausted, and made me kind of feel like I didn't want to keep on going. So, if I had probably focused on the other four, I might have had a more fun time, and I may have been able to just do these all straight in a row and do 12 full hours in one day. However, I'm not that dissatisfied with how this turned out. I'm glad that I did get 12 hours of puzzling done in the same weekend, even if I couldn't do them all on the same day. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video of watching the process of my crazy 12-hour puzzle challenge. So, I also just want to say thank you to all of you for subscribing to my channel, for leaving your thoughtful comments, for all of your engagement with my channel in the last few months. My channel has been growing really quickly. I've been picking up a lot of subscribers, and I'm just thrilled to see that. So if you enjoyed this video, please do comment and let me know which of these puzzles is your favorite, which one you would like to do, and also make sure you click the subscribe button and click the bell so that you can be notified when I post all of my new videos, of which I have quite a few lined up. So without further ado, until the next time, happy puzzling.
Piece by piece, piece by piece puzzler.